Hello, today we are doing my May wrap up. I had a really good reading month in May. I completely failed my TBR, to be honest. I didn't get to all the books I wanted to get to, but I still read a lot of good books. Some of the ones I was really excited for ended up being like 3 stars, which was kind of disappointing. But we will talk about everything as we get to it. I read 15 books in total, but one of those was a bind up of 4 books as part of a series. So really I read like 18 books, but I'm just going to talk about that series all in one. And also, my neighbour started cutting his grass literally the minute I sat down on my chair to start filming. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry. I don't know if you actually can, but I just thought I'd mention it. Some of the books I will not talk about are a couple that I read for an LGBT classics video, which will be coming out next Wednesday if things go to plan. So check the link in the description for that if you're watching this in the future, or if you're not watching this in the future, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on it. And if you enjoy this video, leave a like, and let's just get started because we have a lot of books to talk about. The first book I'm going to talk about is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. This is a little short story. It's only about 84 pages and it's perfect for reading in one sitting if you are looking for a book or short story to do that. I absolutely love this. It is a mystery, little bit of a thriller, but mostly mystery, and it is about a woman who is a fake fortune teller slash psychic, and then one day a woman comes in and asks her to come to her house because she thinks the house is affecting her family. And I don't want to spoil any more than that because, like I said, it's only 84 pages and the text is quite big in it as well, so it would be even shorter. But I just absolutely love this. I love Gillian Flynn's writing style, I love her humour. I genuinely laughed out loud in this book while reading it, and just like the way she creates characters like so quickly, and her characters are always so unlikable but you also root for them at the same time. I don't know, she is just like one of my favourite authors ever. And I also read another book by her which I'll talk about in a second, but I am so sad that I don't have any more books by her to read. I really hope she releases something else soon that is new because this was really great. So that's all I can really say because it's so short, but I absolutely loved this and it was 5 stars. The other Gillian Flynn book that I read this month was Dark Places, and this is a mystery slash thriller again, but this one's much more of a mystery than a thriller, about a girl who, when she is about, I can't remember what age exactly, I think she was like 4 or 3, 4, 5, when around that age, her 2 sisters and her mother were killed in one night, and she was the only surviving witness, and she said that her brother did it. But now as an adult, she is starting to realise that perhaps her brother was actually not the murderer and there was more going on than it seemed. Again, just like the last book, I don't want to give any spoilers at all. I absolutely loved this. It was, again, another 5 stars. Every single book of Gillian Flynn's has been 5 stars for me. I am just obsessed with them. This one was so dark. Like, it's called Dark Places and it goes to some dark places. Like, if you don't like reading about child abuse or potential child sexual abuse, things like that, I would maybe give this one a miss, but I just loved it so much. It was so gripping. The mystery is just like so perfect. I love the way that she ties everything together, but it doesn't never feel convoluted. It never feels like things are being forced. Like, everything just happens so perfectly and so naturally. And again, the characters were unlikable in a good way and so realistic, but like realistically evil. I don't know, I just absolutely loved it and I cannot recommend it enough. Another book that I read this month that I absolutely loved by one of my favourite authors was A Mask of Shadows by Oscar de Muriel. This is part of his Frey and Maigret series, which is a series of historical fiction, detective, mystery novels with a little bit of like paranormal, supernatural twist to them. They are set in 1880s Edinburgh and I just absolutely love them. This is book 3 in the series, but I'd accidentally skipped it because I read the series kind of out of order, which you can do for the first like few books in the series because they're kind of standalone, but later books really tie everything all together. But anyway, this one was about them investigating a mystery at a play of Macbeth where there has been warnings saying that people were going to die, and I, again, kind of similar to the Gillian Flynn reviews I just gave, but I just absolutely love the characters in these novels. The 2 main characters, Frey and Maigret, one of them is like a posh Englishman and then one of them is like a kind of rowdy Scottish man, and they just have like the best banter, like going back and forth, and watching them progress throughout the series is so fun. Like, they go from kind of like not enemies, but they don't really get on at all in the first book, and then by the last book they're like besties. So this middle one, going back a little bit and seeing their friendship, was really fun because at this point they are like reluctantly getting on, reluctantly friends and trusting each other, but I don't know, I just really love the character relationships there. And then the actual mystery itself, again, like Gillian Flynn, Oscar de Muriel just ties everything together so perfectly. It never feels like it's been convoluted, and it never feels like things are being forced. It just happens like so perfectly, and I really, really enjoyed this. I think that if you are looking for mystery novels which are really, they're almost YA, like I would not say this is like a difficult series to read. Like everything is pretty much like straightforward, and the mystery itself, like I can never guess where it's going. It's never like predictable, but I just absolutely have so much fun with this series, and I hope more people read it. I don't really hear anyone else ever talk about it other than me, but I just absolutely love it. So definitely check it out if you like historical fiction or little bits of paranormal stories or mystery novels. An audiobook that I read this month was Promised Land by Barack Obama, and this was narrated by Barack Obama himself, which is always really fun, and I really enjoyed this. It at times became a little bit boring for me when he would go into like a lot of specific detail about specific like political situations. The whole stuff around the kind of, what's it called, the recession in like 2007, like that stuff went on for a little bit too long, which understandably, obviously it is a huge part of his presidency, but it was a little bit boring for me to listen to as a reader. But I overall really enjoyed this. I wish we got a little bit more of his early life and his childhood. Like he did go into it at the start, but then we pretty quickly got into the more political side of his career. And I know that he does have some other books that he's released way like years and years ago, so maybe they talk more about his past. But I just absolutely loved listening to him talk about his life, talk about the presidency, spill some little secrets, spill the tea on the White House, and his talk about his family relationships and stuff like that. That was also like the highlight for me. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. If I was reading it physically, to be honest, I definitely would have got bored, but listening to him talk about it, like his voice, you could just listen to forever. So I really enjoyed this, and I gave it 5 stars. Fellow booktuber Shar, whose channel is Thoroughly Enjoyed Books, also released a little self-published poetry collection called Overshare this month, and the money that she made from it went to a mental health charity. So I bought a copy and I really enjoyed it. One, it was great obviously to give a donation to charity, but then also just the poems themselves. Shar is super talented. I really just enjoyed like her wordplay and stuff like that. I don't rate poetry because I don't think it's really fair to do that with poetry. It's much more subjective than novels and stuff, which obviously are still subjective, but you know what I mean. But I really enjoyed it. She talks about a lot of serious topics, from depression, bipolar, to world events and rape, and a lot of different serious topics. But I thought that she handled everything really perfectly, and she had little like informational sections in it as well, and like some illustrations and stuff. So it was just like a really nice little collection, and I don't know if she's still selling them. I'll leave the link to her Twitter and her YouTube channel in the description if you want to go and check it out for yourself. I'm not sure if she's still selling it, but if you're interested, I would definitely recommend giving her a message. She's super nice anyway, so I'm sure that she'll be happy to help out. I know actually for a fact she has an ebook copy as well, so she'll definitely obviously have that. I don't know about the physical copies anymore, but either way, definitely recommend checking it out and supporting charity, and then also supporting a fellow booktuber. I also done a buddy read of the book Uglies, which is book 1 in the Uglies series by Scott Westerfield this month, with some of my friends, Rosie, Hannah and Nicole. And I did enjoy this, but it was nothing special, to be honest. It was pretty much a paint by numbers, early dystopian YA novel. It follows a girl who lives in a society, oh my god, I hate that term, where when you are 16 or 18, everyone at first is considered to be ugly, and then you go and you get this cosmetic surgery that makes everyone into pretties, and then her best friend doesn't want the operation, so she runs away, and then the main character, I forgot everyone's names, is tasked to go and find her and bring her back. This was, like I said, kind of fun. The writing was like pretty basic. I flew through, I think we were reading 40 pages a day, and it was taking me like less than 20 minutes, like 15 minutes each day to read the pages. So it was a really like quick, easy read, and I'm not opposed to continuing this series. If I saw them like for cheap in charity shop, or if my library has them, I'll probably do check them out in the future. But it was nothing special. It's no Hunger Games. It's definitely like quite an early YA dystopian novel, which I mean it literally is. But I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun, but nothing special. This is my like 7th and final attempt to talk about the Earthsea series by Ursula Le Guin. I buddy read this with my friend Eleanor. If this clip is not good, it's getting posted anyway. There is 6 books in this series. There is 5 novels and 1 short story book. We skipped the short stories and just read the 5 novels. I really struggled at times with this series. The first 3 were all 3 stars, and then books 4 and 5 were both 5 stars. Book 4 was only a 4 star because, to be honest, the narrator was really good. I switched to audiobook for that one because I was just struggling to get into it at that point. I was kind of like, the nearer I got to the end, the more I was like kind of wanting it to be over. But I did really enjoy the 5th book. That was like a solid 4 stars. But yeah, I've been really struggling to describe what the series is about. It follows a wizard called Ged at different stages through his life. Book 1, he is like a young teenager, like discovering like his magic for the first time. He goes to like a wizard school, and then in each later book, he like progressively gets a little bit older. The first 3 are all kind of standalone. They introduce new characters that are really important in the later books. And then books 4 and 5 kind of tie everything together, especially book 5. Book 5 was my favourite by far. It really connected the stories from all the previous books together and brought all the characters together and had them all interacting, and you know, different plot lines and little threads that have been dotted around the previous 4 novels were all brought together and tied together really nicely. And I overall did enjoy this series. I don't think it's a children's series, which for some reason is listed online. The first 3 came out kind of back to back. She wrote them like successively in like the 1970s, I think. And then the 4th book was out like 10 years later in like the 1980s, like early 1990s maybe. And then the 5th and final book came out in 2001. So the 4th book and the 5th book are written like way later than the first 3. And I think you can tell like the last one especially reads like much more modern. But yeah, I would recommend a series if you're into like fantasy and stuff like that. Oh yeah, what I was saying is like online, the first 3 are kind of apparently considered like children's literature. I guess back in the 70s they probably were. Today a child would never be able to read this or even want to read it. It's much more slow. There's a lot of like different themes. It talks about like sexism and stuff like that, and racism kind of plays a little bit of a part. I don't know, there's just a lot going on that is not kids literature. And even like YA, I would not call this YA. I put it down in my notes as being adult, to be honest. I think that, I mean, I struggled at times with some of it, so I don't know. I would recommend this if you're into like epic fantasy and you want to see like a old like classic, but it's not amazing. I didn't love it. My favourite book by far that I read this month was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This book literally spoke to my soul. I feel like it was written for me. It is very strongly inspired by Sylvia Plath's own life. It follows her, well, not her, it follows a fictionalised version of her in New York City on an internship, and then the internship ends and something kind of traumatic also happens to her, and she has to go back home to like the Midwest, and all of these things really come together with also her just feeling a little bit lost in her life, not really wanting to know what she wants to do. Like her life is not what she envisioned it to be when she was in college studying hard, and just a lot of stuff builds up all at once, and she ends up having a little bit of a mental break. She tries to kill herself and ends up in a psychiatric ward, and the story goes from there. I love this so much. I've never been in a psychiatric ward myself, but I have dealt with like some mental health issues and depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff like that in the past, and so much of this book like literally was like, it was written for me. You could tell that this was written by someone who has poured their heart and soul into it and is bearing their soul like for the world to see. It was so realistic, and it's just some of the stuff that it talked about and the way that Sylvia Plath wrote about it was just like so beautiful, but then also like so realistic, and I just absolutely adored this book, and I will definitely be returning to it time and time again. I already want to reread it, to be honest. Like now, I just like, I'm obsessed with it. And now really, I mean, I've always wanted to read like Sylvia Plath's poetry and stuff, but now I'm like dying to read it. And there's also a Sylvia Plath biography that came out last year. I mean, obviously there's hundreds of them, but there's one that came out last year. It's like over 1,000 pages. It's called Red Comet, and I definitely like, I seen it and I was like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that, but it's 1,000 pages. But now I'm like, okay, I really want to read it. Like, I am just obsessed, and I'm going to end this clip now because I keep rambling on and on and on. But yeah, I love this book so much. And then the final book I'm going to talk about, I've decided to skip a few because I don't really have that many thoughts on it, and this video is already too long. But yeah, I'm going to talk about The Invisible Life by Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is the first V.E. Schwab book I have read. I know that she is like very, very popular on booktube, and there's been a few like vicious and stuff that I've wanted to read and just never got to. But I listened to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue on audiobook, and I loved it. I think it was definitely worth the hype. Everyone was talking about how like they cried in this book, and I didn't cry, but I definitely like had all the feels. Was like, I was in work listening to it, and I was like, thank God I have my mask on, because I was like, oh my God, what if I do start crying? But yeah, this was about a girl, if you don't know, who makes a deal with a demon, and she ends up being able to live forever. However, nobody ever remembers her name, and she cannot really make her mark on the world. She cannot say her name out loud, she cannot tell people her story, she cannot write, she cannot paint. Anything that she tries to leave a mark on, the mark just fades. She, at one point, stabs someone, and then as soon as they forget about her because she runs like out the room, his wound like heals itself. And I just thought the way that V. Schwab put everything together was so perfectly crafted. Like, she thought through everything in so much detail. It made so much sense. Like, there's some things where I was like, how would that really work? But then she would actually then demonstrate how it worked, as if she read my mind, and it was so cool. And what I really loved was seeing how Addie, even though she cannot leave her mark on the world, she can subtly influence people to leave her mark for her. She's in art, she has persuaded people to make music, like just so many like interesting and really cool little ways that she has managed to leave her mark on the world even when she physically cannot. And the love element of the book was also really nice. I really liked it. The other characters were great as well. Addie was like a really interesting character. She was a little bit of a bad bitch. I just loved it. And yeah, I definitely think this was worth the hype, and I'm really glad I gave it a chance. So that was my May wrap up. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts on them. I love hearing your thoughts on everything that I have read. I obviously, like I said, skipped a couple of books because I just have too much and I don't really have that many thoughts on them anyway. But I'll put the ones I skipped here on the side. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, please subscribe. Also, if you've watched this far, I don't really know what's going on with my lighting right now in videos. I don't know if it's just in my head or if it looks really weird. I don't know, I just cannot get my phone camera lighting to look nice. I feel like the ring light just doesn't work well anymore. But I also can't explain it. I feel like I'm either like too brightly saturated or like too dull, and like the colors look weird. I don't know if it's just my head. I don't know. I'm doing a phone anyway. I need a phone upgrade. But yeah, I just thought I would say that. Like, I'm aware that things kind of look weird, but then also I keep messing when I'm editing to try and fix it. I keep messing with like the settings and stuff, and I think I'm actually making it worse. So I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, please leave a like, please comment, and please follow me on all my stuff, and I will see you in my next video.